Zoe, thank you so much for joining us on the Women Rock blog. Yeah, lovely to have you. So I thought we could kick off by giving us a little bit of a background into yourself and I guess also your position within CGI.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Steve. Really appreciate it. So yeah, my name's Zoe Gill. I live up near to Liverpool and I'm a Vice President Consulting Services in CGI. Bit of a mouthful. See it as a account executive, somebody that looks after a particular client account within CGI.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, we always like to ask, how people get into tech, and starting at the beginning is always a good place. So yeah, how did you get into the world of tech?
Yeah, by accident, if I'm honest. I was planning to go to university. I was going to go and do public relations and Spanish, and ended up getting a job as a really early careers role in procurement. And I didn't even know jobs like procurement existed. They're not the type of job that anybody told me about when I was at school. I'd done that for a couple of years and funded myself through an open university placement, and then I moved to my first job in IT at an organisation doing procurement there. I will admit I didn't expect to stay there for too long. I was hoping that I'd become a fashion buyer somewhere along the way, but 20 years later I'm still in IT, and just the variety of roles that have been available to me are the thing that's made me stay within this industry.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I guess you can get two sides of the coin of people who, similar to yourself, have kind of got that commercial experience and then kind of carried on transitioning and developing careers, but then others that go down the university degree. So, I mean, I guess your role as, being fairly senior within CGI, I'm sure you've kind of looked at a number of CVs, recruited a number of people. So I guess in your experience, people who are embarking on their journey within tech, is it always good to start with a university degree? Do you think that's essential, or whether similar to yourself, kind of getting that initial experience?
Yeah, so I don't think a degree is essential personally. A lot of what I do today is about common sense. However, I'm personally a lover of learning. I love the whole concept of the growth mindset, so I wouldn't say having a degree was a negative. We do a lot of degree apprenticeships within CGI at the moment, and I think they are the best of both worlds. You get the opportunity to get that academic qualification if that's something you want to do, whilst learning on the job as well. So yeah, for me, it's about adding breadth and depth in your career and trying things out that you don't know whether you like or not. So I'm a big advocate of a bit of a squiggly career, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and I think that's almost kind of what getting into the industry, maybe kind of pre-university, actually allows you to do. It's that saying is, how does it go? It's like try something quick and fail quickly, and then you kind of start to find out what you're good, passionate about. Because I think passion is ultimately what kind of like drives everything. And I'm sure over your career, you've found different paths that, as you said, didn't even think procurement was a thing to start off with. So maybe the not going down the university route maybe has a different path to where you are today, which is it's always interesting, isn't it? But yeah, and I guess kind of a big part of what this blog is about is ED&I and diversity and inclusion in tech. I mean, the blog name Women Rock is all about empowering and giving a voice for D&I. But as time's gone on, about representing underrepresented groups within tech. So I know CGI have got a big foothold in this, and you personally have a big kind of a big passion around D&I. But generally, I guess, what do you think that we can be doing to help attract a more diverse mix of people into tech?
Yeah, I think the first thing is blogs like this and engagements where we're actually talking about the types of roles that exist. I know full well, like as I said before, I didn't know some of the roles that I've ever done in my career existed. They seem to be emerging as you're in a particular opportunity in your career. my own daughter thinks that what I do is just so boring. It's not, shouldn't perceive it as to be something that she'd want to do. She came home from school, she's in high school, and she came home talking about this particular piece of technology in the UK, and it's something that CGI run and operate. And I said to her, you know, that's part of my team, that's what we do. And she could not believe it. So it's a bit cheesy, and I'm sure many other people have said this on the blog, but you have to see it to think you can be it. And I think we've just got to keep showing kind of underrepresented groups that there are opportunities there to find the thing that you like to do most.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big part of what we try and do at SR2 as well is almost having a look at stuff at grassroots level, because I think quite often people make A-level choices, university choices, in reality, quite a young age. And I think if they haven't had the exposure to IT or you know, those kind of subjects in general, it can potentially pigeonhole them down the, not necessarily the wrong path, but, you know, a different path than they, you know, maybe would have gone down, you know, would have gone down otherwise. So yeah, it's really interesting. And as you said, you know, bringing an element of like tangibility to something that is, you know, you can see is, you know, always makes it quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, did you, out of interest, I guess, when you were at school and that type of thing, how much was IT or those kind of subjects pushed?
They weren't, from what I remember, to be honest. You know, we did a basic IT course in my school, but it wasn't anything that I'd done as like a specialism in college, etc. I actually had an amazing opportunity to work in the community for a year with my previous employer, and there was a lot more focus on STEM then than what there was that I can recall. And you know, I know with my own children now, there's much more association with STEM, but I do still think that you can be pigeonholed into thinking, do you like math or do you like science? I'm not sure they were ever the subjects that I would pick, but actually in the roles that I do, it's much more about English and, as you say, that commercial angle. You need to know enough tech to be able to converse in it, but actually I'm not one of the super techies. There's much more brighter people than me in our teams that help with that stuff.
Feel like you might be a bit being modest there, but yeah, no, completely understand what you mean. Yeah, it is, as you said, it's about communicating with the right kind of groups of people, isn't it? And I guess you've touched a little bit there on my next question, which is about barriers, and obviously maybe that wasn't such a big thing in terms of those kind of subjects in school, but potentially for your daughter nowadays it is, which is good to see. But I guess, you know, always keen to understand what kind of challenges or barriers you faced in that route to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, I would say I've been really fortunate in my career. I don't ever remember a time where I feel as though I've been held back because of my gender. However, I'm super tenacious as a person, and the way I was brought up, I don't think my mum would have ever have let me. I was promoted really young, so I was often the youngest in the room. And the thing that stands out to me as well from a DEI perspective is my socio-economic background's quite different to other people that I come across doing roles like I do. And I think personally, as I've matured and become more confident in my ability, I've started to see kind of my uniqueness as a strength rather than as it being something that I was embarrassed about. I have had occasions, I was laughing to myself when I was thinking about chatting today, where I was told to tie my hair back or wear less makeup, and shockingly somebody told me to wear glasses when I didn't need them. And all of that is just abysmal advice. I would never give that to another human now. We've got a bit of a saying in CGI about bringing your whole self to work. And for me, that is the most important thing that I'd want anybody to take away from this conversation. You know, it's so important to be your authentic self.
Yeah, absolutely, because it is your authentic self that ultimately gets you to where you currently are and hopefully where you will be going. So yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about, you know, being promoted quite early on. So a little bit off tangent question here, but did you ever get that kind of traditional imposter syndrome of thinking, you know, when you got that promotion, like you're in the room and like, why am I here, sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. And I was chatting a few months ago to our women's network actually, and I don't think it ever leaves you. I don't think you get to a certain job title and automatically you just never get imposter syndrome again. I remember the time that it affected me the most was probably the most technically competent role that I'd done. I was moving into our cloud infrastructure team, and I'd done it on purpose. I pushed myself out of my comfort zone to do something that maybe on paper wouldn't have necessarily have been as, you know, associated with the types of roles that I'd done before. And I was with teams who had brains the size of a planet. You know, what they didn't know about cloud just really did have me in awe. And it was only when I thought about why I was recruited, because I was so different to the way everyone else thought. And it was the first team where it was probably 100% male before I joined it. And it overwhelmed me a lot. I kept thinking, like, I've joined the wrong team. I can't add any value. I'm so different. And then it was like a penny drop moment. And I thought, I'm adding value because I'm different. Although I can't do their jobs, I could never have solution designed the pathway to cloud. They couldn't manage teams the way I manage them, and they couldn't build rapport with clients the way I hope that I do. And that was just a different set of strengths that we could bring. And in the end, it was one of the teams that I enjoyed being in the most, actually, Steve.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, actually, and good, especially being 100% male prior to you joining. So yeah, as you said, it's all about realizing strengths, and people naturally, I guess, make those comparisons. But then equally, maybe you weren't as technically, as good as them, but equally they couldn't do what you were doing. So
Exactly.
yeah, it is always very interesting. So yeah, I mean, you've already kind of touched on some what seems to be pretty, good achievements throughout your career, but always keen to understand what the biggest or the one you're maybe like most proud of, both personally and technically.
Absolutely. I mean, I was made up when I became a VP, but for me, a job title isn't that important. It's about what I'm doing and the benefit that I'm giving back that matters to me. So it was probably a role I had maybe 10, even 15 years ago. It was my first time moving out of procurement and into service delivery management. So it was something really different. And I was leading the creation of a document processing centre, first of its kind. We had to build everything from scratch, from the end-to-end process flow, the physical design of the environment, so the room in which the team operated, and the recruitment of the entire team. And some of my favourite moments was getting to sit down with people who'd been on temporary contracts with the organisation and telling them that they had a perm role, and just seeing the joy that you'd created for somebody just was wonderful. And the budget was really tight, the timescales were really tight, and we delivered it all. And it was just so proud. It was such a proud moment for me. And the facility that we created was so well thought of within the organisation. It became a bit of a joke. We used to do tours all of the time to like super seniors from the client side and the company side. And then I think from a personal perspective, I was recognised on the Northern Power Woman's Power List in 2023. I received an anonymous nomination on email, and I'll be honest, I thought it was a bit of a joke. I thought somebody was like, pulling me leg a little bit, kind of the working class northerner who's just really tried to do my best and stand up for what I believe in. It was just something that I was like super floored to get recognised for. So yeah, a really special moment for me.
Yes, amazing. Did you ever find out who the anonymous
I didn't,
voter was?
no, I didn't. It was whoever it was. Thank you very, very much, because you made me very happy for that.
Yeah, you never know. They might be listening or reading this. So
yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a shout out to them. But yeah, no, that is amazing. I think both technically and personally, those are some both fantastic achievements. Sounds like Adele and holidaying and kind of celebrating friends and family is maybe what makes you happiest in your free time. But yeah, always keen to understand find out a little bit more about what that looks like, and almost kind of what you get up to.
Yeah, definitely that. Anyone who knows me knows I work hard, but I try and play harder. Getting as much time with the family as we can is definitely what kind of feeds me to make me want to keep doing what I do. And we love to get away as much as we can.
Lovely. And then always a tricky one, but in one sentence, how would you sum up your career so far?
Yeah. Remember the film Sliding Doors from the 90s with Gwyneth Paltrow? She kind of steps on a train and her life changes. It's different whether she gets on it or she doesn't. I
Hmm.
refer to my career as a set of sliding doors. There's been a number of opportunities that I've had where I've either said yes or no, and it has led me on a different pathway. And most of the time when I pick those decisions, it's based on a gut feel. So I'm a big believer of trusting my gut and going with it, because it's served me well so far.
And what do you think's been the most pivotal of those gut decisions?
Yeah, I mentioned it before, the opportunity to work in the community for a
Mm.
year. That was a 12-month secondment that literally a handful of people did over a 5-year period with my previous employer. And I won't lie, lots of people told me not to do it. They didn't think it was the right thing for me, but I learned more in that single year than I could have in 10 years in
Mm.
the industry that we work in. You know, I was late 20s, sitting on the strategic forum of my local council, telling them what businesses and communities could do to work together. Yeah, I think it just taught me so much, and I loved it. And I know my end career will be very different now I've had the opportunity to do that.
Mm, absolutely. And then again, I'm going to go a little bit off tangent here, but what if you can narrow it down to one or maybe two pieces of advice to give to someone who is looking to embark on within tech, or even make a bit of a career change, or as you say, kind of make those gut feel, maybe what feels like in the moment slightly ambitious moves, or kind of jumps. What kind of advice would you give to someone?
Yeah, I would say trust your gut and believe in yourself and do it. If it feels scary, it's probably something that you're going to gain so much more value from when you've done it and you've achieved it.
Mm.
My mum always used to say to me, if it feels like it's in reach, you're probably not daring enough. And I'm not
Hmm.
sure that's probably the best advice to give to everybody in all scenarios, but I think as females, there's that cliche that we read a job advert and we think that we can't do 20% of it, so we just don't bother applying. For me, I'm a big believer, if you think you've got the core ability to be able to go on and achieve that role and add value to it, absolutely do, because you're probably underselling yourself on that 20% anyway. So yeah, I'm also a big believer in non-negotiables. So there'll be certain things that I need in my role or in my life to kind of give me vital fuels, and you need to know what they are and work them out as early as you can, and then be quite stringent with the next jobs that you take. Because if you don't, you'll end up taking a role that you think is right for you, but in the back of your mind, you've already got red flags on. So work out what your non-negotiables are. They'll change over the course of time, of course, because if you've not got children yet and you have got more availability to be able to
Mm.
travel, for example, but when you've got children, don't be afraid to be able to say, yes, you can travel, or no, you can't, depending on your own individual circumstances.
Yeah, no, I really like that, because I think, as you said, those are ever evolving, aren't they? And even from year to year,
Absolutely.
they or even month to month, they could they could drastically change. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I guess very final question I have is I'm always interested to see from like a quote perspective, if anyone kind of lives or works by particular quotes they've either seen in a movie or books or anything like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I wondered if you had like a favorite quote or something you live by.
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see if anyone else has ever used this one. But mine is Italian, not Italian.
Hmm.
I can't even think of where it's come from now. It is Latin. I apologise. It's Latin. Nil satis nisi optimum, and it translates into nothing but the best is good enough. And it's the club motto for Everton Football Club.
Hmm.
I was brainwashed at birth because we have no males in our family, and back to those stereotypes of it was the boys that went to the football. I've been brought up like absolutely loving Everton, and I can definitely attribute some of my resilience to that love of Everton. But for me, it encompasses a lot in the workplace, because it's not necessarily about being the best from a competitive angle, not for me anyway, but it's about nothing but giving my best. And I think that is a major part of my personal brand, you know, the tenacity, the mindset of knowing that you want to do that extra 1% or that extra 1 mile, whatever the cliche is at this moment in time with the books. But yeah, nothing but the best is good enough. And it's something that I kind of live by at home, but I also tell to each of my teams in work as well.
Yeah, no, I can see. Yeah, it's a super applicable quote, both as you said, kind of personally and professionally. And yeah, it sounds like your resilience has been built up through Everton, which I can, yeah, I can definitely see why that's happened. But no, lovely. I think, yeah, no, it's all been some really interesting stuff. Zoe, thank you so much for sharing all your, you know, your journey through your career and, you know, your highs and a few lows. But no, it's been really interesting. So yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks, Dave.